This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 783. Hooly hoo, enjoy. So you guys will recall back in May, or was it June? Early June. I think it was back in May. Jagex was sold, and we went deep into the sale and talked about what particular that meant and how it seems as though that there was nothing actually happening and that there was just some shell corporations set up in the U.S. to kind of shelter the Chinese owners, and that it might not have actually been sold. And it turns out this past week there was a story that appeared on a website called MMO Fallout that says that in a London court, Jagex is being sued on behalf of China Minsheng Trust Corporation, which alleges that it still owns 45% of the equity of Shanghai Fukong under Chinese laws, thanks to a loan that the China Minsheng Trust issued in 2017, which, of course, would mean that the sale of Jagex, which was at the time Shanghai Fukong's only asset, to Platinum Fortune, was faulty and didn't actually happen. And CMT is seeking an order in the form of an attached to enable the proceedings to be brought against the defendant in England and Wales to establish that the SHNT remains the shareholder of the defendant and or rectify the register of the members under Section 125 of the Companies Act of 2006. Boom.
Told you. Right?
We knew something was up, and it definitely looks like something is up. This was submitted to the High Court on May 6th, and this was, of course, in relation to MacArthur Fortune purchasing Jagex for $530 million, and they said they made that sale. But with that being said, the China's Minsheng Trust suspects that Jagex's director may have documents, and here's the real clincher, which demonstrate whether or not Platinum Fortune LP, a fund of MacArthur Fortune LP, has acquired the defendant's shares. And there we have it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the way the sale works, and, we went through the Chinese boardroom documents on that, it looked as though it was just a transfer to different companies down the line. And we're going to have to wait and see how this turns out in court, but it looks like we may have been right.
Well, and not just any transfer, a transfer to write off bad debt, which apparently came back.
Yeah.
Because now they're suing for it, right?
And if we were able to find it here at the podcast, of course other people are going to find it when it comes to the creditors.
Yeah. But are they, I don't understand why it's Jagex being sued and not the company, not Fukong, that sold Jagex. That's blurry to me.
From my sense is that it was the directors of Fukong who were also put in and being directors at Jagex. They would have had the documents to show how that sale went. And that's why they're going after Jagex, because then they can get to the directors who might have these documents. That's why they're going after Jagex and not Platinum or MacArthur or Fukong.
Right, but that puts Jagex on the hook for compensation, correct?
Uh-huh.
So how are they supposed to come up with all that kind of money? They could go bankrupt if this goes south.
Yeah. Because we're looking at the idea is that it's an unpaid 93 million euro or $103 million U.S. loan. Which, with that amount of money, and if MacArthur and Platinum decide to push this down the road and use Jagex for this. I mean, I think last year's profits were around, I think, 53 million pounds, I believe, which is about close to 100 million. I think we'll have to wait and see what this year's profits are. A new yearly report is due soon. But this is substantial if this were to come back and, hurt Jagex in any way, because they're suing one of their directors, former or otherwise. So we don't have any
Jagex
further
would be
information
responsible
on this.
to pay.
I think so, yeah. And, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if anybody out there is listening and has a better interpretation of this. Please do let us know on that. And this kind of just leaves a bit of a lump in the stomach, so to speak, because, we knew this was a possibility going forward on this, but we didn't think it would come to an head so soon.
Honestly, I thought this was like the shady stuff that goes on every day on Wall Street. No one bats an eye.
Yeah.
I didn't foresee a lawsuit coming out of that. I mean, I was kind of taken aback.
Well, there's one thing to know is that, when you're operating in China, most of the companies, the big companies that operate in China, and Fukong is one of them, owned by their mining company, have close ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And, with that, you can say what you want about China, but if you are conducting business that is deemed shady by the Chinese government, you're forced to pay. And from the looks of it, this Chinese asset manager, and if you're an asset manager in China, you are, of course, the way Chinese corporations work, you're ultimately accountable to the Chinese government. So you want to make sure that everybody who has gotten money from you is going to pay up. You can watch full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. You can also listen to audio versions of RSBANDB Update at update.rsbnb.com, and feel free to subscribe to our show and any number of podcast listeners out there at update.rsbnb.com/subscribe.